Welcome to Riffin with GIROUX. I am your host, GIROUX. We're gonna do it. We're gonna play some riffs. Gonna fucking watch some videos. Yeah. Hell yeah. Let's watch some shit. What we got? Anti-lyrical rap or out of context bars.
My mama!
And that mid-air crash of the American Airlines flight and a military...
My mama!
All right.
Bitch, I'm cheating, Diddy.
And I'ma need that $40 even if I gotta fuck, suck, and swallow. Hit the parking lot.
Lord, squad lurking in the parking lot.
That where my bitches.
I pull up on that Gucci elephant and put my dick out. I'ma sell crack. I'ma sell crack. I'ma sell crack. I'ma sell crack. I'm butt naked with my chopper, nigga. Going on Twitter, beam on me every day, yeah.
Maureen's got 5 sisters. They all got ass.
Shout out to the WNBA. You got some fine ass girls. I wanna fuck in the mouth.
Pop told me fuck the world. I'm about to come now. Brain dead niggas love beef. They are vegetables.
Nigga from New York, I'ma give him sticky hands. Chris Travis fucking hoes in a damn speedboat. I won't tell I keep a secret, but I'm gonna bust your ass.
I push this fucking pregnant clown into hyper stuck in the ground.
Rap is just one of my fetishes, like a dragon is pregnant.
I spit hot flames, bitch, just like a dragon. And my pants sagging, spell it backwards, niggas.
I really don't care to stand, but
That's a
you
bar.
gon' get shot again by the M-U-R-E-D-R-N.
My mama named me, my papa gave me cock. Alu Akbar and diamonds. I like my world of rap. Yo, rhyming, it's like a world of crap.
What in the fat fishes of a phenomenal far from Nugan fuck is going on?
Sadly, I can't find the song.
A
tax is a mandatory financial charge imposed upon a taxpayer by a governmental organization in order to fund various public expenditures.
And she put that thong on my groin, and then it go boing.
But it's like soon as I come to my senses.
What's up,
I'm
boss?
good from state to state. You go to the state, you might get raped.
Where your ass go? Are you spitting on hoes, money, drugs, and clothes?
Choke a South Park writer with a fish stick.
In Barbados, eating sushi like I'm calm. So
They will not forget me like I was hit by planes. Niggas is niggas, so niggas have moments.
Word. That was beautiful.
Salam alaikum, Pida Rasti Ebani.
Running back, he was really cutting and slicing up there.
Yeah. All right, so that was a little bit of bars for you. Entire lyrical rap or out of context bars. Let's watch this. Let's get political up in this bitch.
And that mid-air crash of the American Airlines flight and a military helicopter that took the lives of all 67 people involved. Transportation officials held a news conference several hours ago and one day after recovering the black boxes from both of those aircraft.
Sarah Walsh is live in our news center with the latest tonight. Hi, Sarah.
Korea, good evening. And we're learning in the seconds before the crash there was an increase in pitch by the American Airlines flight, which could indicate that the pilot tried to avoid the helicopter at the last second. But that's all part of this investigation into what caused this disaster.
So as many of you guys already know, right now at this moment in time, we had an incident in Washington, D.C. at RFK Airport where a military helicopter, a Black Hawk helicopter, ended up colliding with a commercial airline, and that resulted in the deaths of everybody involved. I believe that as of right now, it is 67 people in total, including 60 passengers on the plane, 4 crew members on the plane, and the 3 that were in the military helicopter. It's an absolute disaster of epic proportions, and a lot of people have jumped to their political camps in order to blame things that they were already against. We heard a lot about the impact of DEI that could have potentially led to this crash. However, a bunch of different people have pointed out that the air traffic controller in question happened to be a white person. Therefore, the conversations about DEI are completely over. We're not going to talk at all whatsoever about the understaffing issue at the FAA. Oh, wait. No, we definitely are going to talk about that, because it turns out just having a white person in a position doesn't mean that certain initiatives that were taken prior to that day didn't ultimately end up contributing to the disaster that we saw. So what we're going to actually talk about today is a program that actually removed anywhere between 1,000 and 3,000 qualified white applicants from the FAA, from air traffic control, and essentially put the remaining controllers, who are greatly understaffed at 300 plus airports across the United States of America, to work 6-hour days, to work more than 10-hour shifts, and of course have increased all the different various problems that we've seen, all these different near hits in commercial airports in the United States of America. But before we get into that, I will remind you that my friend Devin Tracy, his parents recently lost their home in the California wildfires. He has started a GoFundMe in order to raise money for them. The link to that is in the top of the description. If you want to support him, please do. If you can't or don't want to, I understand. I'm just trying to help a friend.
We will find out what happened.
The NTSB says the flight data recorders and cockpit recorders have been recovered and are now being analyzed to get a clearer picture of what happened in the moments before the Black Hawk helicopter collided with the American Airlines flight and crashed into the icy Potomac River, killing 67 people.
At 8:47:58, the crew had a verbal reaction, and FDR data showed the airplane beginning to increase its pitch. Sounds of impact were audible about 1 second later, followed by the end of the recording.
So the case that I'm going to be citing from throughout the course of this video is actually called Brigada v. Buttigieg, but I do want to make something 100% clear. The program that we're actually talking about, its inception was back in 2012, it started in 2013, and it appears to have ended via congressional law back in 2018. It just so happens that they're suing the Transportation Department, and at the time that they were certified as a good class that was able to file this complaint, Pete Buttigieg was the secretary of that very department. So make no mistake about this. This actually goes back to the Obama administration, his second term, not the Biden administration. And here's where we run into problems, because there's an organization called the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees, or NBCFAE. And back in 2012, what they realized is that there were too few, in their opinion, black air traffic controllers in the United States of America. And obviously, the great fallacy, the entire premise of woke, is that any kind of disparity in outcome must be due to some form of discrimination as a part of the inputs. It cannot be that Asians and whites were passing the cognitive test that is 8 hours long, by the way, that is required to be an air traffic controller, more so than black and Hispanic and female applicants. It has to be evil white racism that was in the system. So what this organization essentially did was lobby the Obama administration and the Transportation Department to change up the standards from what we had previous since about the 1990s, which is a very stringent 8-hour cognitive exam, to something called a biographical information quiz as the thing that would lead off whether or not you would be determined to be in the FAA in terms of an air traffic controller. And it might seem like this is no big deal if you're a dumb idiot, but
just gotta play a riff real quick. So that was the riff, and let's keep on watching.
But in reality and actuality, this particular biographical information exam was designed deliberately to exclude white people and qualified people from it. And in fact, the only reason that black applicants were able to pass this exam is because it was discovered that the National Coalition of Black Aviation Employees was actually cheating on this exam, giving them answers in memos that are so insane, so blatantly written to be discriminatory, it kind of boggles the mind. So first, we need to understand a little bit about the hiring process for air traffic controllers so that you guys can understand exactly how disastrous these changes were. So obviously there was a requirement of some kind of education prior to you being able to take the exam. It's called the Air Traffic Control Selection and Training Examination. And you had to get an 85 or above out of 100 in order to be considered a well-qualified employee on the AT-SAT. However, the person who actually ended up filing this lawsuit managed to score 100% on this examination. And to be clear, this is an 8-hour qualification exam. It is the real deal. It is legitimate. However, again, that National Black Association of Aviation Employees realized that black applicants were not doing as well as white applicants. So essentially they conspired in order to undercut this with this ridiculous biographical examination. Now, allegedly in response to outside pressure over the course of 2012 and 2013, the FAA conducted a barrier analysis for ATCS positions to determine whether the existing process served to discourage hiring minority applicants, though the plaintiffs characterized this as deeply flawed and outcome driven. The report determined that African American applicants only comprised 5% of the CTI pool compared to the average of 34% of African American representation across the non-CTI applicant sources. Now, in response to this is where we get the biographical information test as a replacement or as the first thing that you would see in terms of the application process. But in addition to that, they actually paused all hiring for these positions related to the original test during the process where they were working to implement this biographical exam that again was lobbied for by the African American Aviation Association. qualification. And this became incredibly problematic because you had a bunch of people who went to university, who scored high on their test, who seemed like they would be qualified to be air traffic controllers, and guess what? They were not hired during the course of this pause because nobody was hired during the course of this pause. Now, of course, if you are a high qualified, high IQ individual who is doing well on these cognitive tests, you can't just pause your life and wait around for years in order for the FAA to straighten out what's going on. You obviously are going to go to a different job, and this is one of the reasons why the estimates vary so greatly on how many people were actively discriminated against by the FAA, again, between 1 and 3,000 people. But again, ever since this point in time, this moment in history, air traffic controllers have been greatly understaffed in the United States of America. And again, as this was occurring, because of the overworking of the current air control staff, what ends up happening is that the instances of near hits are going up dramatically. And this is absolutely crucial because even this pause, even this assessment right here, created a problem that we would be feeling the effects of for years. But unfortunately, it was not just this pause. Unfortunately, it was not a temporary thing where they realized the error of their ways, and after 6 months, they ended up solving this. They actually implemented these changes and continued to actively discriminate against qualified applicants for years, which again ultimately ends up deterring people who are qualified from applying in the future. So this has devastating effects. Now, plaintiffs have alleged that the FAA violated Title VII when it purged the merit-based hiring preferences for qualified applicants for air traffic controllers with the intent and purpose of benefiting African-American air traffic controller applicants and hindering the class members. The FAA violated Title VII when it implemented a, quote, biographical questionnaire into the 2014 air traffic controller hiring process with the intent and purpose of benefiting African-American air traffic controller applicants and hindering the class members. The plaintiffs claim that in doing so, the FAA refused to accept the outcome of a race-neutral hiring process solely because the racial makeup of the successful applicants, and in its place created a new race-motivated hiring scheme. Now, according to this complaint, when they first implemented the biographical information test as the standard to what they were going to look for these air traffic controllers, before you had to take the cognitive exam, only 14% of the applicants, of the 4,000, by the way, that took the test, ended up passing the test. And considering this was designed not to assess qualifications for an air traffic controller, the fact that you're eliminating 86% of the people that may or may not be qualified for this position is an absolute disaster, especially when you consider that this was wholly motivated by increasing the number of a certain racial demographic in this particular position. But it actually gets significantly worse. The questionnaire awarded applicants in a fashion untethered to the qualification necessary to be an air traffic controller. For instance, applicants could be awarded 15 points, the highest possible value for any question, if they indicated that their lowest grade in high school was in a science class. But applicants received only 2 points if they had a pilot's certificate, and no points at all if they had a control tower operator rating, even though historic research data indicated that those criteria had, quote, a positive relationship with ATCS training outcomes. Further, if applicants answered they had not been employed at all prior to these 3 years, they received 10 points, the most awarded points for that question. Just think about how crazy that is. If you have a pilot's license, then 2 points. That's it. That's all you got. If you have experience related to air traffic control,
for 3 years,
0 points. But what you get a lot of points for, 15 points, is for failing a high school science exam. What you get a lot of points for, again, 10 points, is being unemployed for the past 3 years. What kind of nonsense is this? Now, the reason Andrew Brigida, a Caucasian male and resident of Arizona, and an August 2013 graduate of the Arizona State University CTI institution, is suing is because in 2013, he passed the AT-SAT with the top possible score of 100%. So quite literally the most qualified that you can be. Following the FAA's changes to the air traffic controller hiring process, though, he took and failed the newly implemented biographical questionnaire in 2014. Plaintiff Matthew Douglas Cook, a Native American male and resident of the state of Washington, and a December 2013 graduate of another CTI institution, also passed the AT-SAT, recording the top numerical score possible of 100%, and he too subsequently failed the questionnaire. Neither Brigida nor Douglas Cook were hired by the FAA as an air traffic controller. It's absolutely crucial for you guys to understand out there in the audience that I do not give a damn about anybody's race or ethnic origin when it comes to being qualified to do air traffic control. Here you have two individuals that joined together for this lawsuit and ultimately ended up creating a class of largely white individuals, but as you heard right there, they both got perfect scores on the test that actually determines if you're qualified to be an air traffic controller, an 8-hour cognitive test that is extremely difficult, and they were not hired due to this biographical questionnaire. One of them happened to be white, which is the target demographic that they were actively trying to discriminate against. The other one happens to be a Native American. And if you think I only care about Brigida and not the Native American who also scored 100% on this, you are sadly mistaken. I want the most qualified people regardless of race. I have no issue with the 5% black air traffic controllers that existed previous, because guess what? They all passed that cognitive exam and therefore they were qualified for those positions. But these two individuals, again, regardless of race, based on the fact that the Black Aviation Association wanted to artificially boost the number of black air traffic controllers, were not able to get through despite their perfect score. Now, in addition to all the ridiculous things that you would get points for and lose points for that I already told you about, here's a couple of other ones actually reported quite well by TYT of all places, and I'd like to play that for you as well.
Yes, if science was your lowest score, you got an advantage. Insanity. If you had less experience, it was an advantage. If you were recently unemployed, it was an advantage. If you don't take, I mean, I know Anna listed it, but just think about it. You don't take criticism well, you're air traffic control. They have to be able to criticize you at like significantly and immediately. Get the frickin' plane out of the way, right? This is not one of those things that you could have like, a discussion about it 12 days later. We gotta go. The other one was you don't speak out much. At air traffic control, you have to speak out. That's like issue number one, speak out, right? Why would you test for things that give you much worse competency?
Don't snitch.
Because in their mind, and I would argue it's actually super ironically
hell no, I ain't no motherfucking
racist
snitch.
assumptions.
10 points.
Yep. Right? They're like, oh, black people are probably gonna be bad at this job. So let's design a questionnaire to find the crappiest candidates so we can find more. No, who are these monsters?
It's absolutely crazy in every possible way. But in addition to that, to make things absolutely that much worse, the National Black Coalition for Federal Aviation Employees actually helped its members cheat on this exam in order to get them through by leaking these answers to these questions, because spoiler alert, they're all counterintuitive answers that nobody with any kind of brain would purposely answer correctly, because the correct answers are absolutely 100% incorrect for qualifications for the job. But again, we have phone calls, emails, memos, all of this information discovered through the discovery process in this lawsuit that shows this absolutely 100% did happen. Now, of course, this organization cheating on a federal exam is actually a federal crime and could have been prosecuted by an inspector general, by the Department of Justice, but guess what? They did not get prosecuted for this. There were no consequences. The Obama administration, when this was discovered, said no big deal, nothing to worry about, and obviously, unfortunately, the Trump administration also did not decide to open this case back up and pursue this. But make no mistake about it, if Georgia teachers can be charged with RICO in the state of Georgia for cheating on standardized tests for kids in instances that honestly don't matter all that much, it just so happened they happen to get bonuses if their students did better, then you can definitely charge them with the federal crime that they committed by giving these answers to this ridiculous test to their members, and explicitly, by the way, saying in those memos that these answers were for black applicants, minority women applicants, and definitely not for non-minorities, aka not for whites. So why does this absolutely matter? Well, again, it should be obvious. You have thousands of applicants that could have been qualified, that graduated from the appropriate university, universities being filtered out based on this biographical information assessment test that's absolute junk and absolute garbage. You're even tossing out people who, again, scored 100% on the actual test that determines qualifications, and this program existed full force, unchallenged, for 3 straight years, where all of these people were denied these applications, and the lawsuit is still working its way through the courts. Again, the lawsuit actually got certified as a class back in 2022, so it's not like these people were waiting for 9 years in order to get these positions. They've moved on to other things, and we have a shortage of air traffic controllers because it turns out these dumb people who passed this ridiculous assessment test could not still pass the cognitive test, which was the next step. It's ridiculous, it's absurd, it creates a bunch of different problems, and this is one of the reasons why at the 300 plus airports in the country where we desperately need air traffic controllers, we don't have them. Because guess what? Even though this program was ended when Trump took office, it wasn't removed as an option. It was just placed after the cognitive test until 2018 when Congress passed a law prohibiting it. So you have 5 straight years of them not hiring enough people because they weren't looking for qualified people. They were trying to boost racial demographics that they preferred, and that ultimately ends up leading to overworked air traffic controllers. And in this particular instance, it has been widely reported that one of the 2 controllers that usually works till 9:30 when there's higher volume of traffic actually ended up asking to leave early just prior to the crash, and maybe that could have been a contributing factor. So yeah, when people say DAI had nothing to do with it because white man air traffic controller, in reality, they don't understand the full impact and full effect of these programs because they do damage in the system for years. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the disaster at the FAA. Till next time.
Look, I do drink. I like drinking, but I don't drink when I wake up.
You have made an insane number of people happy.
My daughters are going to be failures compared to you. They will make no one happy. I will be shocked if they get out from under my shadow. I mean, it's too...
do
you have
bombing
a
bad
prediction or opinion on Super Bowl 59?
I think it's going to come down to whoever has the ball last.
It seems like all the games, whoever has the ball last wins. I do not want a Super Bowl. And you as a pro, tell me.
So Bert Kreischer is back on his yearly tradition tour. Not the comedy one, but the other. You know, where he gets semi-healthy, drops some weights, and then convinces him.
Let's play some riff. I have to play some riffs.
himself that he's got it all together, and then somehow circles back to being completely out of control. This time he's in Louisiana doing the rounds, promoting his new upcoming comedy special on Netflix, which is wild, and also a pretty big arena comedy show on Super Bowl weekend. But unlike last year, Tom Segura is nowhere in sight, probably because he learned his lesson after that painfully awkward appearance they did together on the Pat McAfee show last year. Remember that? 2 grown men basically crashing a show just to promote their vodka. And well, Bert decided to go solo this time, and somehow it was even worse because not only did he bomb with jokes that didn't land at all, but he also managed to turn the entire appearance into the Bert Kreischer show by rambling, interrupting, and making everything about himself, like everything. And at times it did seem like he was making everyone around him uncomfortable. And by the way, this was brought to my attention by one of you guys through the comedy enforcement email, so I really appreciate that, and feel free to reach out if you see anything that catches your attention. But let's get started.
I am phenomenal considering how drunk I was on our flight last night.
You didn't strike me as too hammered.
Yeah, you didn't seem it. No, that's the key to my drinking. You can never tell. John Mayer, I ran into John Mayer. We were doing this Grateful Dead thing, and he said to me, and I hope you're cool with me saying this, John. I see him before the show, and I don't drink before I go on stage. And he goes, hey man, on a scale of 1 to 10, how wasted are you right now? I was like, 0? He's like, no, like how many beers have you had? I go, 0? And he goes, you're not drunk? And he's like, I thought you were always drunk. I was like, no. He goes, so it's like an act? I go, no, I don't, what are you talking about? Like, I do drink. I like drinking, but I don't drink when I wake up.
I guess you had that reputation with John Mayer.
Man, so when I had this speech that kind of went viral about I'll never quit drinking. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I'll never quit drinking. I was going to stay healthy enough so I can always continue to drink. Drink at sunset or whatever I said. But in this speech, I said, when you get on a plane, they go, can I get you something to drink? You say, double Jack on the rocks, lots of rocks. Well, man, that has gone viral with flight attendants. I didn't say anything on the plane. No. She walked up, double Jack on the rocks, lots of rocks, and I went, my wife's sitting next to me going, You get lucky if you get one thing to get recognized for. Like the machine, very lucky to get that went viral. But man, that speech, and I didn't want to do that interview. And I love Jack Daniels. Like I love my vodka. I know I'm supposed to say that. But I own the company, so I can say whatever I want. I love Jack Daniels. I love a double Jack on the rocks, lots of rocks.
It is unbelievable just how lucky Bert is because sure, he does work a lot. He's a natural storyteller and definitely knows how to market himself.
You can drink
but that's
a lot.
About it. Nothing mind-blowing. And so the fact that he's managed to go viral and build a massively successful comedy career by telling the most simple and clearly exaggerated stories about himself, it's crazy. I mean, it is crazy. Think about this. He's out there promoting his new comedy special that he has coming up on Netflix, and also a pretty big comedy show at an arena with big comedians. And so technically, once again, on paper, Bert Kreischer is one of the biggest comedians at the moment. But then if you pay attention to what he says on the show, you'll notice that some of the jokes bomb so bad that he panicked and had no other choice but to start talking about his favorite subject, himself. He started talking about how famous he was and how much he loved being recognized, to the point that he tells a story about how one of the flight attendants was serving him drinks before he even asked, which is a very questionable story. And look, to be fair, you could argue that Bert was hungover, tired, or simply didn't want to try on that show, but that's the problem because he's now hit that part of the cycle in which he is hitting rock bottom, and even his own friend and business partner is keeping his distance. I mean, if we take a look at Two Bears, One Cave, it's been a while since they've actually recorded a podcast together, and since they do bank episodes, meaning that they record a bunch on the same day,
but
who knows when the last time it was that they've actually seen each other in person. And sure, they're both adults with busy lives, but I mean, recording Two Bears, One Cave and promoting their vodka is literally their job.
I could not get Tom to come back this year.
Why?
He doesn't like fun. He'd rather sit at home.
Yeah, I was about to say, what?
He doesn't like fun. Like that's the fun thing. Like, okay, so I'm always fun. So to have fun with me is it's like a regular day. But to have fun with a drip like Tom or my wife, when they have fun, man, you really have fun. Like Rogan is always fun. Rogan's always fun. Ari, I mean, sometimes he drugs you, whatever.
By the way, are you getting ready to introduce to meet Jaden Daniels? That's just been.
I'm so pumped
that he's on his way.
Oh,
over
please, are you serious?
Yeah, he's going to join you too.
Should I scoot over chairs? I mean, I feel like it's a respectful thing to do. Okay. What are the odds? What are the odds he knows who I am?
Sorry?
What are the odds he knows who I am?
He was in college recently, so yes, I think he does.
He's in college recently.
What if he brings you a Jack with extra ice? What about
double Jack extra rocks?
Buddy, I will sit behind him and rub his shoulders. Oh, shut up!
Yeah, Jaden Daniels. Take a seat. Bert's moving over in the middle of it.
Yeah, oh, my phone's right next to you. If you see a picture of me benching 315, don't worry about it.
Good to see you, Jaden Daniels. What a pleasure to see you in person.
Thanks for having me.
Courtesy of Invisalign being here. We appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
But you're representing Invisalign?
I am.
Do you use Invisalign?
They're in right now.
For real?
Yeah.
That looks normal. My wife got Invisalign. I go, plastic surgery, and you choose your teeth?
Well, Jaden Daniels just sat down. Unfortunately, our radio audience is going to have to leave in a second. Bert, will you stick around to top?
I'll stick around. Dude, such fan. Do you know who I am?
Do I?
No.
Who are you?
Who am I? I knew it.
He's Bert Kreischer.
I coach in the Canadian Football League.
Don't go anywhere. We're here at the Super Bowl.
And look, I don't blame Tom for not going with Bert. I completely understand. But it is messed up that he basically became an enabler by agreeing to launch a vodka company with Bert, essentially giving him the perfect excuse to never stop drinking while Tom is out there living his best life, actually trying to be healthy. But again, it doesn't really matter because Bert himself doesn't seem to care at all about changing, because at this point, endless amounts of people have told him to his face that he looks unwell. I mean, it's actually impressive just how quickly he can go off the rails. For example, these are pictures from just last month or a few months ago, and if you compare that to how he looks today, it's not good. It might be time for his real friends to have a talk with him. And by the way, don't forget to like the video and also subscribe to the channel. We're now posting more often and it helps out a lot.
Keep on drinking. He just needs to
last
quit
time
comedy.
I saw him was at the roast, and he was looking
Quit
really good.
entertainment
And then I
altogether.
looked at him, I'm like, bro, what happened to you? Why is your face so red? How many lobsters did you eat last night? Because you look like a
Every
lobster
time I
right
see
now.
him, he goes, why is your face so red? I go, I don't know. High blood pressure.
Yeah.
I partied last night.
No sleep.
And as we all know, there are a few things that Bert Kreischer absolutely hates. Not talking about himself all the time, getting called out for his drinking or health, and not getting recognized. Bert himself has told a lot of stories about how upset he gets whenever an employee or someone doesn't recognize them or treat him like a superstar, which is absolutely insane. And so because of that, being able to witness Bert's reaction to Jaden Daniels having no clue who he was comedy gold, because keep in mind that before Jaden came in, Bert was name dropping like crazy, basically trying to name every single person, every single famous person that he knew, trying to make himself seem more famous. And so once again, him not knowing who Bert was had to be a hard, crushing reality check for Bert Kreischer. And it does make sense because I was looking into Jaden Daniels and it turns out that he's an absolute beast. And so I can see how Bert Kreischer ruined a potentially good interview with Jaden for a lot of the fans. Not only by interrupting and telling bad jokes, but also by adding nothing to the conversation.
It's the Bert and Jaden show.
We should do it like a buddy cop thing. Me and you. Like I'll tire them out while they beat me up, and then you go and clean them up.
Because he is cool under pressure, right? I mean,
he's so cool talking to him. I said, "Do you drink?" He goes, "Sometimes." I said, "The answer is no." Then.
Great answer.
Great answer.
Great answer, man. Great answer. And I'm just thrilled that you're sticking around here as well.
Not a drunk like me. You don't
by the way,
drink.
I would pay to see a show.
Yes.
With the two of you guys.
Oh, I would in a heartbeat. Why don't you come on my podcast?
Let's do it at some point.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite comics, comedians?
Him.
Great answer.
Jaden Daniels makes.
I was trying to FaceTime Donnell Rollins. Donnell Rollins would lose his mind.
You have made an insane number of people happy.
My daughters are going to be failures compared to you. They will make no one happy. I will be shocked if they get out from under my shadow. I mean, two white chicks, mediocre, not even that attractive.
You're talking about your daughters.
Yeah. I don't find them hot. What am I wrong?
That's crazy.
It's got to be cool for your parents to see this happen for you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
it's cool for it to happen, right? But as a parent, to see you shine and succeed has got to be really awesome.
I think they're more famous than I am.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think my mom got me.
Is that why?
Really? I think so. I think my mom got me.
Wait, you want to get sad for a second? How old's your mom? How old's your mom?
How old?
Yeah.
45.
Why is that sad?
Because I could be his dad. Like, I feel like athletically we're peers, and then I realize that I'm older than his dad. That he looks at me and he goes, "Look at that old man."
I know.
As opposed to,
I go through this every day.
Isn't that crazy?
I know.
One day you're going to be old.
Hey, I got some time.
Yeah.
Some time.
How many of these will you have?
Now, they
Look like
did
a
go on
Puerto
break in
Rican
between
whore.
those clips,
Make
so
me
there is a
sick.
chance that maybe Bert was telling Jaden as much about himself as possible to try and get him to like him on the show. You know, talking about how famous he is, how he does arenas, and how Joe Rogan is his best friend. Because when they first come back, it does seem like Jaden has some respect and kind of likes Bert Kreischer. But then as the time goes by, once the cameras are on, things get really awkward, because on the one hand, you have a pro athlete who was being very nice, trying to be professional and speaking carefully since he is representing the NFL and his sponsors. And on the other, you have Bert Kreischer, who was saying the wildest things ever without really reading the room. I mean, sure, it wasn't crazy enough to get somebody canceled, but the jokes were just bad. Now, could I be biased? Maybe, but I can't help but notice how every single thing that he says always goes back to him. It's always me, 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 my wife, my daughters, my age, my podcast. If I was him, it's actually insane. But then it gets even crazier, because if you pay attention to this next video, you'll notice how as soon as the conversation is not about Bert and instead is about sports, you know, the thing that the show is about, he actually interrupts and derails the whole conversation, because all he needed to do was to let Jaden have his interview. And at some point, it did seem like Jaden was getting annoyed.
Well, the folks at Invisalign are about to take you elsewhere. Before I let you go, Jaden Daniels, do you have a prediction or opinion on Super Bowl 59?
I think it's going to come down to whoever has the ball last.
It seems like all the games, whoever has the ball last wins. I do not want a Super Bowl. And you as a pro tell me. I do not want a Super Bowl where we're just watching the Chiefs just get a little first down and then just kneel and go, we won. I want it to come down to like a final play. Everything on the line. They need a 2-point conversion to win. I want that for my Super Bowl.
That would be very exciting. That would be very exciting.
What do you know about winning things on the final play?
Trying to learn some more. Trying to learn some more.
I mean, like, what would you know?
Yeah. Like 4 weeks in a row?
Literally.
How well-rounded is this kid? Like, if I was him, first I'll be dripped in gold, right? I'd have chicks behind me in bikinis. I'd be a mess. I'd have white powder all here. You'd be like,
careful.
Yeah. Scott, man, you must have great parents. Your parents back there?
My mom is somewhere around here.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's like in hearing that, Bert.
Yeah.
I don't think mom.
But by the way, I'm too old for his mom. His mom looks at me and she goes, yeah, I don't date old men. And she's married. I wouldn't talk.
So you don't have a prediction, whoever gets the ball?
Whoever gets the ball last, that's my prediction.
Okay. Where are you watching it?
And look, to be completely fair, Bert Kreischer does put on some good comedy shows, not with his own comedy, but because he does have a lot of connections and he's not afraid of overpaying comedians to be on the same show. He does put on some good events. For example, we recently saw him in Vegas and did a review. And even though Bert's material wasn't good at all for the whole hour and 30 minutes, because he did have Bobby Lee and Nate Bargatze opening for him, it was definitely worth it. And so if he got healthy and lasted a long time, I could see him in the future potentially being like a brand for good quality comedy event.
Right to the hotel. Bert Kreischer goes, you want to do something burning? We got like 5 hours for the roast. I was like, yeah, sure. Go do something's burning. Had a great time. He made Nashville chicken with me and Big J. Big J's hilarious.
So he was shooting the show in Nashville?
In Nash. He
Oh,
just
nice.
gets an Airbnb and anal and says, oh, there's going to be a bunch of comics around. I'll capitalize.
Boy, these guys are smart. I'm
I
dumb.
know, they're
if I
good.
was smart, I might be successful.
Brilliant idea to get other funny people to do your work.
That's not bad.
Byron Allen. So we do Something's Burning. I go back, and Whitney Cummings texts me. She goes, hey, how's your jokes looking? You want to go over them?
Because, for example, when it comes to Fully Loaded, the comedy festival, if Bert Kreischer wasn't the main headliner or did the most amount of time, it would be a no-brainer, and I would buy tickets every single year. But man, when it comes to him on podcasts, he keeps getting worse and worse, which is insane because at this point, we sound like a broken record. And the funny thing is that Bert hasn't really done anything that crazy, like getting canceled or calling out his own fans like Tom did, but he is still one of the most unliked comedians out there. And so at this point, who knows if Bert Kreischer will actually ever change? Not when it comes to his personality, who cares about that? But when it comes to his drinking, I mean, it might be time for his friends, for his real friends, to have a serious conversation about
Drink
it.
it with
Because
GIROUX
even though
tonight
he
at
likes
7.
to claim that he doesn't have a problem, he did say on that show that his goal when it came to drinking was to make it seem like he wasn't drunk or drinking at all. But in this case, if you show up looking like Bert, it makes it very obvious that you were heavily drinking for the past couple of days.
Like my daughter's like, hey, would you come over? I think she was a little homesick. She goes, would you come, Mom, come visit me where I'm studying? And I went, I would love to. And then I heard her sell it to me. She was like, Dad, there's a pub right next to my apartment. And I was like, really? She goes, Dad, they've got the best pints. You'll love. And I'm like, you know, I like other things too, right? She's like what? You were just talking like I didn't know that. What's it called, Franklin? Franklin? What's the play everyone's into?
The what? Oh, Hamilton.
Hamilton. I didn't know that was
Franklin.
Franklin. I don't know.
He's also a historical figure.
Yeah,
yes.
true.
Yeah, Franklin.
Yes, Franklin.
Franklin?
Benjamin.
Yeah, I never.
Well,
yeah.
You'd never heard of the musical.
You'd be shocked what I don't know.
And so once again, if Bert Kreischer is showing up to shows hungover and that's affecting whatever little comedy he had available, you know, it might be time for his real friends to have a conversation with him. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe to support the channel.
Like and subscribe.
Dislike if you didn't like the video. But that is all we have for today. See ya.
All right, so that was that.
These people didn't have a date to do.
Let's play some more riff, and can't believe I might watch a Joe Rogan clip. But it's my boy, Actual Justice Warrior, covering that Joe Rogan clip, so it will be good. Trust me. Like, Joe Rogan is right sometimes. Like, he's not a complete idiot. All right. Let's try this one.
And I got fucked up. You got me fucked up.
All right, let's play some more vids. Okay, Let's see.
They never agreed to do the show. This is really important. Even after Trump went on, they offered for me to come to D.C. and do a show with Kamala. But even then, it was the same deal. It was only like 45 minutes to an hour. And, you know, it was not on my set. And I said that, look, he did it here. We should probably do it here. Like, if it's possible to do it here. Obviously, when he did it, it had an enormous result. I'm willing to do the same thing for her. I wanted to release both of them on the same day.
So spoiler alert, the people over at the Kamala Harris campaign are still lying. They're still blaming absolutely everyone for their terrible campaign decisions. And a recent account from Joe Rogan completely dispels the notion that has been put forward in a popular book that the left wing is circulating about how Joe Rogan went out of his way in order to screw over Kamala Harris by not having her on the podcast, when in reality, what we discover from Joe Rogan's response is that he ended up giving her every opportunity to appear on the show as long as she appeared in studio in the same manner as President Trump. And it turns out that President Trump was much easier to book than Kamala Harris, and she felt entitled to all these different other perks. And the book that many a left-winger are blindly quoting from is actually written by somebody who didn't even contact Joe Rogan for his version of the story. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I will remind you that on February 15th and 16th, DebateCon 5 is happening. The link to tickets is in the top of the description if you want to go out there. It is in Newark, New Jersey. I hope to see you guys. Now, let's be clear about something from the jump of this particular video, and that is that the Kamala Harris campaign was a disaster from top to bottom. I called this in the original video when they initiated the coup against Joe Biden in order to remove him from the ticket, that everything we were seeing about Kamala Harris being treated like a rock star was all fake and fraudulent, and people have deluded themselves into thinking that it's everybody else's fault that they had a great candidate, when in reality, the 6-week bump that she got when she wasn't doing any media interviews, that was just in line with Trump versus generic Democrat, and that was always going to be determined on the quality of the candidate. So yeah, they gassed themselves up, they try to make her into a rock star, when in reality she was nothing of the sort. She was still the same terrible candidate that didn't make it to Iowa back in 2020, despite the fact that she took all those crazy left-wing positions that ultimately led to her undoing. As soon as she started talking to the press, as soon as it started to seep in to the consciousness of the American people that she was afraid of the press, she was done. She was cooked. And she also showed us that repeatedly with poor media choices, and one of the poorest media choices that she made was not doing an interview with Joe Rogan when he offered her that interview, and even agreed to not talk about a bunch of different topics that she wanted to avoid. But the difference between Kamala and Trump, according to Rogan, unbelievable.
I guess it's probably a good time to talk about this. There was a thing that came out recently. There was a book. There was some book about the Kamala Harris campaign where they talked about her getting on this show. And they said a bunch of things that weren't true. They talked to, supposedly talked to like 150 different people about her and, you know, what happened with her coming on the show. I don't know if it's 150, a lot of people. They didn't talk to us, and which is kind of crazy. And which is like, they didn't even ask. But they said things that just weren't true. One of the things they said that weren't true was that we lied about the day that Trump was coming on. No, we just didn't tell you that Trump was coming on. He was already booked a long time ago. This is how it worked. Trump was really easy to book, like super easy. We offered one day. He said yes. That was it. There was no, what are we going to talk about? How long is it going to be? Is it going to be edited? There was nothing. Yeah. What's the waiver? Here, give me that waiver. Sign it. It was so easy. So he was already booked. They never committed to doing the show.
So right there, that is the perfect distillation of why Kamala Harris lost and why President Trump won, because President Trump understood where the opportunities were in order to get his message out, and Kamala Harris demanded that everybody would come to her, that everybody would bend the knee and kiss the ring, even though, again, she had received 0 primary votes in order to get the position of the Democratic nominee, and Trump, again, as somebody who won the Republican nomination 3 different times, won the presidency once, was running for a second term, still actually just met and agreed on the date and was in Texas. And one of the things that I found absolutely hilarious is that in the research for this story, I found this damage report segment from John Iadarola where he's pandering to the entitlement of Kamala Harris, talking about how it's crazy for her to appear in Texas, even though it's absolutely not, because this is where the studio is.
Now we have a little bit more information, though. And the thing about it is, there's this book, Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. It's written by two different journalists that have detailed what appears to be an effort by the Rogan team to stop that interview from happening. And we're left perhaps to speculate as to why they did not want Harris to have the same opportunity that Donald Trump did, and we will do that. But anyway, they had been talking about doing an interview with Rogan. The Harris team wanted to do it. They did seem to understand it's important to appeal to podcasts and all that. And so Rogan's like, okay, I have a condition. I'm not going to travel to you to interview the vice president of the United States, who could well be the president in 3 weeks. You have to come to me, even though in the closing weeks of a presidential race, a Democrat going to Texas makes very little sense. But you know what? They did it.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I absolutely love everything about this John Iadarola segment over at the Damage Report, because you could tell his mouth is watering based on the idea that this confirms all of his preconceived notions about Joe Rogan. He doesn't even think for a second that maybe the Kamala Harris campaign blundered and they're lying to cover up the blunder. They're throwing it on Joe Rogan, and he's so entitled on behalf of Kamala Harris, saying, well, she could have been the president of the United States in just a couple of weeks. So Joe Rogan is crazy and bad for daring to ask her to come into studio, just like the guy who actually did win the presidency did in the same manner. Like, how dare you expect Kamala Harris to act like the guy who not only was president before, but actually went on to win this election. Again, the entitlement from the Kamala supporters, the Kamala team, is just disgusting. It's nasty, and you see it time and time again, and yet these people wonder why they lost.
So all this talk, there was another thing they said, that the reason why they did the Beyonce thing, the Beyonce event in Houston, was so that they could be in Texas to do my show. They never agreed to do the show. None of that's true. They never agreed. They also said that they sent someone down here to the studio to do a walkthrough of the set. That's not true. The Trump administration did. I mean, if they are trying to say that they, as in the entire federal government, well, I don't think the Trump, well, I guess the Secret Service is a part of the federal government. Maybe you can kind of get away with saying that because the Secret Service came down here for Trump and looked around, that we sent someone down, but it was not. It was the Trump administration sent them down because they're the only ones that had a date to do the show.
So again, Rogan right here exposes another lie from the Kamala Harris campaign, and that is the fact that they claim they sent somebody to do a walkthrough of the set, when Rogan says that's not the case. She never agreed to a date. In fact, they were basically jerking the Rogan team around, and he even gives her a little bit of a grace and says maybe they're counting when the Secret Service showed up in order to clear the area for President Trump as them sending somebody, as in the federal government, because Kamala Harris was the vice president at the time. But again, all of this could have been clarified if the journalists that participated in the writing of this campaign book actually, you know, contacted Rogan for his version of events.
We went through, I've got a whole, we have all the receipts.
I'm not in the mood.
I have a whole list of conversations that took place.
Not in the mood.
They never said she was going to do it. So this whole idea that we f***ed her over and then we f***ed her over for Trump, incorrect. Just not true.
And she, you know,
but I think it's someone trying to cover their ass for the fact that she never did it, and if she did do it, it might have had a positive effect.
Yeah.
If her and I had a good time and we got along great, and she won over, you know, the air quote young male vote, things could have been different. Who knows? So this guy's probably trying to cover his ass.
Not in the mood to work out
what I'm thinking
technical
too, is
issues and
the
whatnot.
reaction to her not coming was like pretty big.
But they didn't commit to doing it. This is the thing. While this guy's saying like that we were difficult to deal with, not true. We were super easy. We made it real clear. But also, it's got to be the actual real show. It shouldn't be some fake version of it where I'm sitting in a conference room. Also, they wanted a stenographer in the room. They wanted staff in the room. They wanted Trump was just in here by himself.
Yeah.
Just me, him, and Jamie. That's it. For 3 hours. Like, they wanted to do everything. They wanted it very controlled, and they were really
Maybe I am
concerned
gay.
that it wasn't going to be edited. So I don't think they ever really were sure they wanted to do it.
So one of the reasons why I 100% believe Joe Rogan and 0% believe the Kamala Harris campaign is everything he's saying rings true. Everything their campaign and this book is saying is absolutely nonsensical and false. This idea that Rogan was supposed to come for a limited media appearance to DC and do the interview on her terms, again, kiss the ring, bend the knee to Kamala Harris, we saw that actually come to fruition when the Call Her Daddy girl ended up doing her show with Kamala Harris in DC, and they spent over $100,000 in order to build a fake set to replicate the one that they previously had. And by the way, Kamala Harris was in Los Angeles many a times doing fundraisers. She could have done the show in that girl's studio, but guess what? She didn't do the show there because, spoiler alert, she obviously feels like these lower tier media personalities need to come to her. And again, this is all the entitlement that the voters saw and the voters rejected.
Yeah. Then once Trump did it and it had this huge response, I think then it was like, what the fuck? What are we doing? He just did it. It's got 50 million views. This is so stupid. Why didn't we do it? And so then there was, even then, when they offered to do it in DC, my manager asked, is she committed to doing this? If I bring this to Joe, no. She hasn't committed to doing this. Have you brought this to her? Like, they wouldn't even say whether or not she had expressed willingness to do it or whether they were trying to convince her to do it.
Honestly, I hope that Joe Rogan releases all this different information because it will 100% prove out the fact that Kamala Harris was at fault for not doing Rogan. And again, we know based on the terms that they offered publicly, based on what's even reported in this book, that the terms were ridiculous and absurd. And again, well beyond what was offered to Trump was expected and desired by the Harris campaign. Again, according to Rogan, they offered Trump a date. He said yes, agreed to it right away, had the Secret Service do the walkthrough, basic protocol, signed the waiver, and appeared on the show. By contrast, Kamala Harris demanded that Rogan come to her, do it on a set that they were going to build, waste campaign funds in order to do so, and all these other conditions that, again, just show the Democratic view of the media. The media is meant to be an extension, an arm of the Democratic Party. They don't believe in independent media, and again, the reporters are meant to change their shows, even though Rogan's a podcaster, not a reporter, in order to cater to them, rather than the politician actually going and asking for support from the audience, from the voters that listen to the podcast host.
Yeah. Then once Trump did it and it had this huge response, I think then it was like, what the fuck? What are we doing? He just did it. It's got 50 million views. This is so stupid. Why didn't we do it? And so then there was...
Look, I 100% agree with this. This was obviously a blunder from the Harris campaign. Now, she probably would have been destroyed in the Rogan interview, not by Joe Rogan pressing her or anything of the sort, but by the fact that she's incredibly awkward, lacking all charisma, and has a bunch of different ridiculous problems. But again, she would have done that to herself. You should still prepare for the opportunity. You should still be able to do it. And considering that Rogan offered her, again, as the opening gambit, to come into the studio, sit for the same amount of time as President Trump, he would avoid certain topics that she didn't want to discuss because he wanted to get through her talking points. It was a great offer, and any sensible politician running for the president of the United States of America would have taken it. And I believe Pete Buttigieg ended up going on the Rogan show to try to back Kamala Harris, so they thought, oh, well, Rogan's nothing. We'll send the transportation secretary of the Biden administration to go deal with him, and look how that turned out for you. While Trump is in the White House making actual policy decisions, Kamala Harris is back in her home doing absolutely nothing, pretending that she's going to run in 2028 in order to get some more money in her pockets, maybe saying she's going to run for governor in 2026 when nobody wants her in any of those positions. Hey guys, editing Sean here. I know somebody's going to catch this, but Pete Buttigieg was not the one who actually went on Rogan. He went on Jubilee instead. The person I'm thinking of is John Fetterman, who went on as somebody to represent Team Kamala during the campaign, which again, when Trump and Vance go on Rogan, they do all these podcasts, is a poor substitute. A random guy who was a senator that's not connected to the campaign or connected to the ticket doesn't make any sense. in my opinion. I mean, let's be honest, people. There is no way that you can read what is written down in the excerpts of that book that have made their way online and then listen to Rogan and tell me that those excerpts are more reliable and more fact-based and sound more true than what Rogan is saying. It is absolutely 100% logical that Kamala Harris would want a stenographer in the room, would want to control it, would want a fake version of the show, because that's what she did throughout the course of her campaign. Repeatedly, interview after interview was staged, fake sets were built, they were in DC, all these different parameters were met, and obviously she was angry about
When's
the
the show
editing. And by
tonight?
the way, Rogan was
Are you
talking
gonna
about
be
this
in the-
way back when, even before the
in the big
election,
room?
that was something that was going to bother her, even though we saw the unedited version of the Trump podcast was absolutely
get a
100%
scoop?
effective. This
GMZ
is the trick
Tupac?
that the Democrats always want to do. They want to make all these different various demands. They expect, because the mainstream media complies all the time, full compliance, and when they don't get it, they attack you as some kind of evildoer, when in reality, nothing could be further from the truth.
We know for sure there were some people that were
We can
supposedly
work-
on her
we can
staff
work on it.
that were against her doing it. They thought it was bad because
Just-
it's a bunch
just
of
GMZ.
They're basically in a cult. You have a district.
Again, this is also true. We've seen reporting time and time again that shows that people on the Kamala staff
Also,
were
tell KB to
definitely
send me the
against
link.
her doing the show.
I'm
They
ready.
were like, Joe Rogan,
No
evil
guitar,
white racist, white
just
supremacism.
alcohol.
Oh my God, you would be
And
alienating
hilariousness.
your woke, trans, non-binary, all these different various people by daring to sit down with them. And Rogan makes it clear that he was even thinking about bending his principles in order to cater to Kamala Harris. But then he saw the Brett Baer interview and he was like, no way.
Look, if you're willing to go on Fox News, you talk to, what's that guy's name, Brett Breyer?
Yeah.
Where they cut that off after 20 minutes. When they did that, that's when I was like, look, it's got to be in the studio. It's got to be in the studio, and it's got to be real. It's got to be a real conversation. I had entertained a couple of times going to it, but I was like, 45 minutes is just not enough. You know, you and I have been talking an hour and a half already. Yeah, it's just like, it's not enough time.
Yeah, again, also sounds 100% true. Rogan wanted more time. He's like, you can't have the fully fleshed out conversation with such time constraints. And that is in reality what they were afraid of, what they're terrified of. They didn't want you to know the real Kamala Harris because they were trying to meticulously craft an image of her that was not reflected by the reality. And this is honestly absolutely embarrassing for Kamala Harris. It's embarrassing, or should be embarrassing, for the supposed journalist that wrote the book, that they didn't even go out and get Rogan's side of the story. Absurd, ridiculous, insane. But again, those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you believe Kamala Harris? I know you don't, obviously. Or do you believe Joe Rogan, even though it's clear he's telling the truth? If you like this video, show him by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the entitlement of Kamala Harris.
We did it. Hey, yo, flimsy. When's the show? Oh, ah.
is gay, but the gayest is James.
I want you to think back to the worst part of your life. It doesn't matter what, doesn't matter when or why, just the point where you were at rock bottom. Now imagine if someone recorded all of it and sold it at Walmart for all to enjoy.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
Metallica's Saint Anger might just be the most hated rock album in history. If you've read a list of the worst rock albums ever made, there's a good chance that Saint Anger was on there. And before we discuss if it deserves the hate it gets, it's important to understand the public stance on Metallica. Look, no one even came close to Metallica. I can't sit here and pretend that they just suddenly became washed up geriatrics. The 90s is where Metallica achieved legend status, but with an influx of fans came an influx of critics. Critics who really thought that Megadeth had better vocals? The Black Album, a record that famously wasn't thrash metal, brought in a lot of new fans but alienated a lot of old ones. Same thing when they released Cum and Piss, two records that were less Metallica and more cowboy post-grunge. They also changed their appearance, cutting their hair and trying on mom's eyeliner. And it's not fucking gay, it's cool.
You are not the guy.
But in 2000 they got into their biggest controversy yet as the guys who instigated the death of Napster. But unflattering Flash cartoons weren't gonna kill the hype around Metallica. Praise and tributes were still being thrown around in their way.
And I got fucked up, you got me fucked up.
They were still
Don't talk
icons,
to him like
and
that.
honestly it would be kinda hard to fuck up your reputation
Or
if
your
you were the size of
band.
Metallica. It would take like a public endorsement of the Nazi party. Nah, if there was only one thing that could turn the name Metallica into an out-of-touch brand, it would be to release an album that everyone could collectively agree was terrible.
Total apocalyptic bullshit.
After waiting 6 years to drop, Saint Anger was their grand return, and I swear in 300 years people are still going to be talking about this. It was controversial the
I still
moment
think
it came
that
out, with
some
many
kind of
people
monster
being dissatisfied
has
with
a
its
good riff.
contents, to say the least.
Some kind of monster is a good riff.
So
Rat
is it
me.
really that bad, or is it just a circle jerk? Is it some misunderstood masterpiece, or is it just meat riding? I'm afraid I can only find that out myself, so let's get right into it with the first track, Frantic.
That's not bad. Not that bad. Come on, man. Come on, man.
What the hell was that? Now we gotta talk about this tone, man. Metallica has changed their style yet again with Saint Anger to something that the average fan couldn't even fathom as a possibility. Some kind of fucked up combination of nu metal, garage rock, groove metal, and a pinch of hardcore. The popular theory is, oh, those old geezers sold out once again. When will they learn to stop chasing trends, I say, from the comfort of my unwashed secret lab gaming chair? So that begs the question, what were they trying to do? And I'm gonna go with the answer straight from the source. The producer Bob Rock says this was an attempt to go back to the sound of the old garage days. This were to be a raw and dirty sounding album. A little something to let the people know that Metallica was back, and they were fucking pissed.
If I could have my wasted days back, would I use them to get back on track?
The guitar tone is very industrial. The heavy distortion on that and the bass immediately let you know that you're in for something nasty. By the way, the bass is temporarily done by Bob. More on that later. The main riff and the breakdown, they're just catchy as hell. The high energy and chaoticness of it makes me want to thrash until my spine is looking like a Mortal Kombat finisher. Even the chorus, which is this cleaner section, adds a nice contrast in the overall mood. You know, it's not James screaming in your face the entire time.
Keep searching, keep on searching.
The song is called Frantic, and switching between emotions helps it give off an unstable vibe. Unfortunately, that's about as nice as I can be, because everything else sounds like Saint Ass. The snare drum, man, I'll be the first to say it. It was a bad idea. The tuning isn't even the problem, it's the mixing. The hollow trash can snare is actually pretty staple in a lot of alternative metal from the 90s. Yeah, and also in a lot of death metal and grindcore, but this isn't fucking grindcore. These guys play with kids on Jimmy Kimmel. Listen to the Helmet song Wilma's Rainbow. It has the exact same sound as the frantic snare. Whereas this works, Frantics does not, because it's way too frequent and sustains forever, resulting in a near constant ringing sound. Even after Bob tried to talk him out of it, even after 2 years of production, Lars was still dead set on making this shit sound like a frying pan. It's an overdone meme at this point, but for good reason. The over-prominence is not something you can just ignore. I've listened to every track at least 5 times now, and every time I hear it, it just sticks out like a mediocre musician among 3 good ones.
Mediocre?
James also tries to get into vocal ranges he's not qualified to be within 100 feet of. There's a lot of screaming in Saint Anger, and the screeches in Frantic just sound painful, like he's gasping for air on the verge of suffocating to death. Another dank meme from this album is the line, "My lifestyle determines my death style." Now, call me crazy, but I think that line is killer, and it could have actually been cool. But instead it sounds like he just chugged a bottle of molasses before saying it.
My lifestyle determines my death style. My lifestyle determines my death style.
What it sounds like is a dad. A dad who's trying to embarrass you, screaming Metallica lyrics while he picks you up from school. I want to love Frantic. I wish I could, because the guitar tone and riffs are sick. The pacing and energy are there, but the vocals and drums are horrendous, and it feels like it's missing something. Frantic gets a 6 out of 10. Not a bad start. This song is like a decade's worth of pent-up frustration and anger all let out at once. Or about half of what I feel after 3 days of nofap. The main riff sounds nothing like Metallica. This is that dirty shit Bob was talking about, and honestly, I like it. What I don't like is the shitty butt rock verse. It just kills the whole flow, unlike in Frantic. It makes sense in Frantic, like I said. Plus, you also got that really sick melody. Here it just feels like it cracked open Walmart's finest selection of IPA and hopped in a sports car it'll never race.
Not that bad. I like it.
What I mean is it's Nickelback. It holds Saint Anger back from being a really aggressive track.
Like it's not Nickelback. Come on now.
Okay, I'm not trying to be apathetic. I know what James is going through. This is supposed to be a very personal and emotional record. Art should be human. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that. But I will say it should be done with some level of elegance, as that's what separates emotional art from, well, just emotions.
I hate being alive! I hate being alive!
Saint Anger feels effortless. This song runs off repetition, repeating the same exhausting
I still
verse
like that
and chorus
record
for
more
7.5 minutes with fucking
all the modern
nothing interesting
metalcore
happening.
gen bullshit that is out right now.
Even if you look deeper into the lyrical content, it's not like it's saying much. Lazy writing and genius lyrical works such as "I feel my world shake," like an earthquake. Saint Anger has the depth of a David Cage game, which is to say, it's not that deep.
That's not a bar.
Also, the line, "I'm madly in anger with you," gets a lot of scrutiny for sounding dumb as hell, but I'm prepared to defend it. It's actually one of the better written lines, as it highlights a normalized addiction that we don't really think about. Anger. It feels cathartic as hell to rage out. Maybe bust a Nintendo Switch over your wife's head. But people who've experienced it know after 2 seconds that it's extremely unhealthy, and a broken controller is far from the worst consequence. This is why people find vices, like music similar to Saint Anger. I can totally see people who love this album just for that reason, and if you do, then more power to you. But Nitrous will take the edge off pretty well too. I mean, I'm just saying, Galaxy Gas goes kinda hard. A good main riff and chorus with terrible writing and pacing. This ain't Saint Anger, this ain't even Prophet Pissed. This is mildly annoyed megachurch pastor. And if you don't Venmo him $5 right now, Saint Anger on repeat is gonna be your eternal damnation. 3 out of 10.
That's a good riff. Fuck
Track
what you
3,
heard.
Some
Fuck what
Kind
you
of
heard.
Monster, which I will get into, but I feel like I need to address the elephant in the room. Some Kind of Monster is the perfect opportunity to talk about the behind-the-scenes documentary of the same name. It helps us understand the internal conflict that was happening and gives us context to why the album sounds the way it does. Which is exactly what the world needed because nobody knew what the fuck this shit was. I'm the old Norm. I want old Metallica. Not this woke therapy garbage. But the ugly truth is that old Metallica was dead, and whatever Metallica was left was on the verge of self-destruction. You already know about their boring display of butt rock and Napster controversy, and to make things worse, they just lost their bassist for the second time. Jason Newsted left the band, or should I say...
He fucking left the band! He fucking left the band! Which part of that is...
He cites he couldn't deal with James' controlling behavior and wasn't being allowed to pursue music outside of Metallica. This was also around the time they hired a therapist
make
to
your
be around their
millions,
studio and
leave the
occasionally have
band,
little therapy
do your own
sessions.
shit.
This guy
Word,
Phil. So yeah, my man Phil's here, I guess.
Best bassist in
but
the
Jason
world.
said no, that's pussy shit.
I actually said that I think that this is really fucking lame. And weak.
And I have to say, Jason was kind of right. Releasing a documentary to show the world how vulnerable and dysfunctional your band was is definitely a stupid choice. This is the exact opposite of what Metallica needed for their image at the time. People aren't going to see James open up about his feelings and say, wow, he's so human. No, they're going to say, wow, he's a pussy. I thought that guy was cool. What you see in this documentary is grown men acting like something between babies and battered women. What set off James to storm out of the recording studio and enter rehab? Lars calling his riffs stock.
I think it sounds stock to my ears. And
It's
you want
stock
to write
riff,
it
it's
down?
stock riffs.
I was straight up with you, and I told you I'm in a shit mood. And what have you been doing? Fucking picking at me all night.
Yeah, stop calling the venues, guys. Come on now.
After returning from rehab in 2002, you can really see the cracks starting to show. Immediately, James has this new rule where he can only work from 12 to 4, and it causes Lars to flip out.
Fuck. Fuck. Fuck.
It's just uncomfortable and not fun to watch these guys squabble over stupid shit and act like children. And that's really all you need to know about the Some Kind of Monster documentary. It made Metallica look like even bigger dickheads and showed the world the fall they had from being badass metal gods to dads. At least it ends on a high note. They all make up, start writing cute little motivational messages everywhere. They fired the therapist. Phil Tao is fucking dead. Dave Mustaine shows up and is paid royalties for the riffs he wrote. And Robert Trujillo crab walks his way into the hearts of everyone. With that out of the way, I guess we can talk about the track itself. It's not good.
Oh,
Some
come
Kind of
on
Monster
now.
starts off with a pretty cool intro. I like all the distortion effects and the switch up to the groovier tone. But then it just keeps going, and going, and going, and I just want the damn song to start.
Cut to the chase and fucking play, okay? Alright.
The idea was portraying this Frankenstein monster to represent Metallica at the time, listing off all the parts that contribute to the negativity. It's a pretty cool concept on paper, but they made it so boring. After a while, these lines just mean nothing. It feels like he's making shit up on a tangent.
These are the lips that taste no freedom. This is the feel that's not so safe.
These are the cocks that I must suck. This is the rump that I must shake. Like, it just gets old. And the chorus does not help. Like, it's fine at first, but every time I have to hear James slur the intro, like he's tweaking off a Billy Kimber Mario Kart, I get one step closer to becoming the Joker.
Some kind of monster.
Also, they like doing this thing where they throw a bunch of random shit at the wall in the last 2 minutes. Here it's this ominous I'm in us chant. It's 27 minutes of foreplay for 2 minutes of action that just leaves you feeling ashamed. If you want to ruin your day even more, watch Kirk try to play the riff. It almost made me cry.
The notes in between are fucking with me.
Some Kind of Monster just feels bad, man. It's a tough listen, clocking in at 8 minutes and stuffed with the most eye-rolling shit imaginable.
I don't think I've
2 out
ever
of 10.
listened to the 8-minute version. Only saw the video.
Dirty Window is one of the better tracks on Saint Anger. It's almost a banger, but it is not a banger.
And I know bangers.
Dirty Window's lyrics were inspired by James seeing himself act out in the documentary. By the way, very noble of him not to shut the whole thing down as soon as he saw that.
I see my reflection in the window. It looks different, so different than what you see.
Give a schizo man some Adderall, a guitar, a paint can, and a dream, and he'll give you something like Dirty Window in about a half hour. The song's got that vibe of relentless aggression. Shit makes you want to whip a McLaren down a residential road. It's got a nice main riff, simple yet effective. And the pre-chorus adds a nice contrast similar to Frantic.
I'm judging, I'm jurying.
Yeah, it's basically what this song is, the Frantic pre-alpha build, before anyone could hear it and give their feedback.
And I would say, delete that.
Protector! Protector! Rejector! Infector! Protector! Rejector!
Dirty Window is full of weird-ass choices that weigh the song down, just like that chorus you heard. And I don't want to be a hack and dwell on the snare forever, but it's impossible to ignore when you have songs like this, where Lars pulled an oil drum over my head and started beating the shit out of it with hammers. And the song just kind of fizzles out with a really questionable outro.
Drink from the cup of denial.
It's not very strong vocal work. It sounds like somebody slipped an ice cube down his back. There's so much missed potential. Metallica made Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Graduation. They are great songwriters without a doubt.
Graduation?
And as I said before, I like a lot of
That
what
was
Saint
nice.
Anger has to offer. There's just no quality control. There's a reason why you can find so many of those Saint Anger fixed projects out there that cut out all the nonsense. If there wasn't any good ideas to salvage, no one would even think of robbing this grave. But as it stands, that's all Dirty Window is. Good ideas. 4 out of 10. Invisible Kid is written through the eyes of a depressed teenager. No, I mean literally, this is your average net spend listener. Come on, you can't tell me that doesn't sound like the caption of some dude's blank story. Invisible Kid is what I imagine it would sound like if you filled your ears with concrete and went to a Slipknot concert. For some reason, when the vocals kick in, it sounds like one constant brown note. It sounds very flat. An unintended upside of this is that the snare drum is properly mixed. It sits comfortably at the back of the mix, where it won't bite any of the other kids.
Fucking bit me, yo!
But because of this flat sound, the song has no real energy. Come on, it's a brain-dead nu metal riff. I could be moshing. But you don't get that impact because it's compressed as shit. It's also 8.5 minutes, so you already know my brain is turned into meconium. This album's got a real big problem with overstaying its welcome, especially on Invisible Kid. Why does Saint Anger need to be 75 minutes long with only 11 tracks? That's an average of around 6.5 minutes per track. You know how many songs on Saint Anger need to be 6.5 minutes? None. Now, Metallica is no stranger to writing longer tracks. One of their most popular, Master of Puppets, is the same length as Invisible Kid. But unless you're lobotomized, no one's reaction is going to be, ew, 8 minutes. Because Master of Puppets can blast the fluoride off of any Zoomer's calcified pineal gland. It's engaging the moment you press play. There's clear sections, you know, the intro with that build up into the main song, that heavy ass bridge, that kick ass solo, and ooh, that interlude, man. Your reward for sitting through Invisible Kid is this dog shit bridge with some of James's worst vocals. Ugh. Invisible Kid gets a 1 out of 10, not because it's a direct call out of my lifestyle or anything, but because it's bloated with garbage and none of it is worth digging through. James overcomes the negative influences in his life and fights the demons out of his head.
Piece of shit, motherfucker! You're never gonna break my fucking mind!
My World is a pretty interesting track compared to the rest of Saint Anger. Now don't get me wrong, it sounds exactly the same as every other track, but there's a very clear tonal shift. It almost sounds like they're having fun writing the worst possible first draft for lyrics. Hey Bob, I'm gonna end this part here with sucker. Okay, sounds good. Let's put that in. What? This track has some of the worst lyrics in the entire album, and it's all because of this phoned-in tough guy act James is putting on.
Look out, motherfuckers, here I come. I'm gonna make my head my home.
Even in the mess of Saint Angry, this song still feels out of place for this very reason. This is why you don't have three people who can't agree on anything all contributing the lyrics, and especially why you don't have a producer there acting as a friend to approve of it. I'm sure they just wanted to get it done within James's AVGN ass have to leave at 5:40 ass schedule, and Bob was so lenient with everyone to avoid them getting mad. Like, God forbid James crashes out because Lars ate the last 2 pieces of bread. My World has some things I enjoy. I genuinely admire the screaming parts this time because I can feel the exertion it took. Doesn't feel half-assed, like he wasn't trying to wake up his parents in the other room. And I really like the playing near the end of the song. It's chaotic, groovy, aggressive, all at the same time with that bass line too, man. It's funny because this is what Saint Anger should have been. Go crazy, go stupid, not hollow. The idea was to let everyone know that Metallica was back and that they were bad dudes. But every time I listen to Saint Anger, it's like I just open an echo chamber of all the band's combined misery. It's painful. My World has its flaws with corny lyrics and such, but at least it's fun and doesn't overstay its welcome. 5.5 out of 10. Well, this already sounds like someone ripping ass. Shoot Me Again has the most nu metal sound to anything off of this album. I mean, the main riff literally sounds like some Follow the Leader era Korn. It's decent, but it honestly just feels very formulaic.
Not it.
It just feels a little stock to my ears. Oh, come on now, wait a minute. It does the nu metal thing of having a cleaner vocal section, which, come to think of it, applies to almost every other song. Huh. I can't blame people for writing this off as trend chasing when it undeniably has that alternative metal sound from the early 2000s. A generic one at that. Bob said in an interview that he wanted to shake up the way radio sounded with Saint Anger by making something that sounds exactly like everything else, except bad.
Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet. Come on, shoot me again, I ain't dead yet.
Now I think nu metal and alternative fucking rocks, but I'm not above admitting that it can be lame as hell sometimes. Especially around 2003, I mean, people were sick of this before it even came out. Nobody gave a shit about this style. People were moving on to other genres. People wanted fresh new faces, and let me tell you, Metallica weren't getting any younger.
Go home to your family, dude.
Sorry for the tangent, but I feel like I had to get that out there somehow. Especially when the only thing else worth talking about in Shoot Me Again is the vocals. James has this weird, buttery smooth delivery with a southern twinge that just doesn't work. Hey, you know, talk about a thing on Shoot Me Again, man. Saying shoot me, can't shoot me again. I don't know if this applies to anyone else, but I also really hate that hard K sound he says at the end of every back. And he really insinuates it. This song is very mid. It's an okay instrumental with a good use of muted notes, but it's a bit long and a bit stock. Shoot Me Again is just what I say when I have to move on to a new track. Oh. Oh. Oh.
Sweet Amber.
If there's one saving grace in the septic tank of Saint Anger, it would be Sweet Amber. Everyone's always like, oh yeah, the album is trash, but you gotta listen to Sweet Amber, dude. Sweet Amber fucking slaps! And after hearing this, yeah, they're right. Okay, I'm not saying this song is going to be revered for years to come among the
Kinda
likenesses
has
of
a
For Whom
Queens
the
of the
Bell
Stone Age
Tolls, but it's worth your time. Let's get the only bad thing out of the way first. The vocal deliveries are a bit wonky. Lyrics can be a bit iffy. Wash your back. But I just want to say some positive things, man. Kirk really shines in this song. He plays some really groovy lines. Gives it a bit of a unique tone, almost danceable.
Kill him. Ooh.
It's a bit quirky, but sure as hell better than the tone on everything else, which, you know, is farting through PVC pipe. Speaking of Kirk, there is a distinct lack of solos on Saint Anger. For someone who can never keep his foot off the wah pedal, it's a bit concerning that there's no solos. In the documentary, Kirk expressed that the idea of having no solos was a current trend in metal, and that leaving them out would have just been trend chasing.
But can I say something that I think is bullshit? This whole fucking solo out, dates the whole thing. That's so bullshit. If you don't play a guitar solo in one of these songs, that dates it to this period.
But he also says he was bored of playing the traditional solos and wanted to try his own things, focusing on leads. Solos or no solos, this album aged about as well as the Rolling Stones.
Grow up.
Funnily enough, solos were recorded not only for Sweet Amber, but almost every other song on Saint Anger. And you can actually hear them in the documentary. Funnier enough, Slipknot actually started putting solos in their songs starting in Volume 3. You know, the guys who were on top of the alt-metal scene. So they could have been 2 steps ahead with this whole genre evolution shit, but chose to sound exactly like everyone else. I know Metallica said they wanted to implement as many new ideas and riffs as possible, but axing something so deeply rooted in your identity? For this?
You can't do it, it's disgusting!
A solo would have fit flush between the bridge and breakdown, which, by the way, are insane. Easily the best 2 minutes on this entire album. Sweet Amber brings me joy, because it actually feels like a fucking song. For one, it doesn't drag, and it has a completely unique sound within the context of Saint Anger. And it also has a clear payoff at the end of the song. It's getting a 7.5 out of 10. I knew the Goats would pull this one off. Saint Anger sweet, baby. We getting out of rehab with this one. God, shit. Every Metallica album got the soft song, and I think this is supposed to be that. I mean, maybe. I don't really know what they were going for. The song's vibes are all over the place. It tries to be uneasy by setting up a voice inside your head beat with that repetitive guitar slide. Then the chorus is the designated soft section. Track starts to pick up towards the end. Lars even pulls out the double bass. It's like this guy can play drums or something. I would have named the feeling boredom, because this shit's boring. But what I think they were going for is anxiety. Yep, all stages of having a panic attack are here, even the mental breakdown. Why are people raving about Puss in Boots getting some head when Metallica did the whole realistic panic attack thing better 20 years earlier? Kirk's leads are pretty cool, and I appreciate the conceptual direction this song takes. But I don't appreciate it enough to ignore how much of a slog it is. The unnamed feeling ain't horrible, but it's not something I want to come back to. 4 out of 10. Purify is like the evil, fucked up version of Sweet Amber in the sense that if there's any song to avoid in Metallica's entire catalog, it's Purify. Whatever you do, don't listen to Purify. Worst mistake of my life. And after hearing this, yeah, they're right. I fucking hated everything that Purify tried to do. The anti-harmonies on James's shrill cries of help are agony. becomes off-key and the whole thing actually sounds distressing. It's the sounds of somebody descending into madness and smearing doo-doo feces all over the solitary confinement wall. If that's what they were going for, it's a piece of art, but it still sounds terrible. It's like a parody of Saint Anger. It's every flaw this album has exaggerated to be the most uncomfortable and grating thing ever made. The mixing is even worse. The snare drum sounds even more open, like they put reverb on it just to say fuck you. The riff is boring and the lyrics stink. James has got to like suck on a lozenge or something. His voice is noticeably shot on Purified, and every scream sounds like he's about to start coughing up blood. The bridge is fine, I guess. It just feels like aimless playing to me. And the ending almost feels like it's building up to something, but you know the prophecy. It just ends abruptly, and you know what? Good. Truly, this is Metallica's Revolution 9. It gets a 1 out of 100. Send that shit to Davy Jones' locker and let's move on. Saint Anger ends on the track All Within My Hands, a song about James's controlling nature and how it turned away Jason Newsted. Yes! Yes! I fucking love band drama! The Metallica situation is crazy. All Within My Hands does a decent job of switching up the rhythm through its almost 9-minute runtime. I wasn't bored out of my skull like in Some Kind of Monster or Invisible Kid.
All within my hands. Squeeze it in. Crush it down.
It's structured almost like a System of a Down song. Verse leads off with clean vocals and a little run at the end, and the next verse is a loud, aggressive one. But can you guess what I'm gonna say next? Not the clean ones, actually. You know, he serenaded me.
Then something just snapped. Something inside of me.
You know, for as much shit I give the divorced cowpoke era of Metallica, they do know how to make some softer songs. And I think the cleaner sections of Saint Anger are some of the only good parts, as the screaming ranges from okay to complete earfuck. I know these screams come from the heart, because they're ugly, they're not manufactured to sound tough. Shit sounds like Patchy the Pirate freaking out after watching the Lost SpongeBob episode.
Metallica.
Betrayed us!
Nothing could prepare you for the bizarre outro where James screams kill over and over. I would be fucking scared for my life if James handed me a piece of
which
paper
record
that just
is
said
that?
kill on it
Can
38
you name
times. You're going back to rehab,
a
brother.
single from that album?
I think All Within My Hands is the perfect way to end Saint Anger. Metallica was fighting demons with this album, and this song feels like the final confrontation. Especially that outro. When it ends, it's relieving, like the torture is finally over for the
Self-titled.
band and me.
So
Even the title,
shove it.
All Within My Hands, could represent the idea that Metallica has finally gotten their shit back together. And they can finally move on with their career, releasing albums 7 years apart
more
that somehow
recent.
sound exactly
Minerva
the same.
was the biggest single.
On one hand, the
of-
song has decent riffs and ideas. It's for
That's a
sure
cool
one of the
song.
most complex Metallica songs, but it can be kind of tough to swallow if you didn't want to hear James being lit on fire. They did name a charity after it though, so it's not all bad. I just find it funny that this is the song they went with.
Yeah.
Crush it down.
Saint Wanger.
Excuse me.
Everyone wants to know what went wrong with Saint Anger. Well, don't waste your time because everything went catastrophically wrong. The better question is what went right, and the only thing that matters is that this saved them
Oh,
from
good.
falling apart
I'm
and
having
being
trouble
banished
talking.
to Nostalgia Act hell. The real problem this record has is that it's a victim of being made at the wrong place at the wrong time. Morale was non-existent at the Metallica HQ, and unfortunately that shows through on the final product. Saint Anger is the anthem of troubled dudes with ED and late alimony. It is a sad creation from an outsider looking in. And not sad in the sense that, oh wow, this song is really touching. It's sad in the sense that, oh wow, these guys are fucking losing it.
You're slipping, Jimmy.
All the problems could have easily been fixed, and this album would have actually been pretty good. Don't take my word for it. Go listen to the official radio edit for Some Kind of Monster. Do it right now. Your jaw will hit the fucking floor. So why, goddammit, why couldn't Bob just say no to some of these choices? I mean, Bob is the guy.
Okay, so the radio
He mentally
edit
tormented them to
is
get
like
the
better
perfect
than the
sound of the
original
Black
song
Album.
for Some Kind of Monster.
Well, there's your answer
That's
right
very,
there. The last
very
thing they
rare,
needed was Gunnery Sergeant Bob
very
jerking them
rare
around
thing.
and getting them more pissed off.
It sounded stupid.
So instead of guiding them towards success, Bob took what they gave him and made some belated answer to the trends. And it sounds stupid.
Stupid.
On top of the constant whining, it's Metallica at their most creatively bankrupt. For every one thing that sounds enjoyable, there's about 87 different things that just sound ridiculous or add nothing. My take on Saint Anger is that they tried way too hard to make something out of this. It would explain the whole edgy rebrand and it cost them their entire identity. And the worst part of all,
Like how hard it
none
can
of it
be.
even
Like
mattered.
take the good riffs that you got, that
Saint
you
Anger
wrote for
release,
like
they started
Black
touring again
Album,
and shows
mix
still
it
sold
with some
out.
good
They
trash
were still
metal,
as popular
where
as
you
ever.
push the envelope
People
of
just wanted
speed
Metallica
and
to
everything,
get on stage and play.
and put them
Put
together,
the Enter Sandman
make a
in
good
the
album.
bag, bro.
For
And I
fuck's
think
sake.
Saint Anger is the point where they realize that they no longer have to try hard. They don't have to appeal to Hot Topic kids anymore. They can do whatever the fuck they want. That's why their subsequent album Death Magnetic is basically a soft reboot of their entire image. They're back to doing what they know, and that's what keeps people happy. Saint Anger sucks, and it could have been fixed, but it's one of those things that had to suck for the greater good. It's dated try-hard slop, not totally irredeemable, but it's more fun to look back on as a weird piece of Metallica history than a competent record. I give it a final score of 4 out of 10, and I can definitively say that it's not that bad.
Not that bad.
The well has run dry on Saint Anger discourse, and I think it's time we all move on to the real villain.
I would cut my legs and tits off when I think of Boris Karloff.
I'm joking, I actually think this album is awesome.
Swallow your sharpest cutter like a colored man's dick.
Whoa!
Look, I do drink. I like drinking, but I don't
Shut
drink
up!
when I wake up.
Fuck you, Bert. All right, we went through everything. I don't think I'm gonna watch like that Jim Norton podcast with Anthony Cumia. That's too much. Let's play some more riff and let's get the fuck out of here. Let's play some RIFFIN Lee. Oh. All right. Sounds like you're killing RTD2? Ah, yeah. Yeah, that's the sound I'm going for. Not really good at playing alternate picking or whatever it's called. The jigga 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 jig. That's why I only do. But it does sound heavier to my ears. But yeah, I need to practice a little bit more of that trash metal shit, you know. I need to incorporate it in my playing. Let's play some black metal. Damn, that wasn't a riff. Let's try to make one black metal riff. All right, let's go. No. Fuck you. Fuck black metal. Let's play some white metal. Oh shit, the mic was off. Fuck my life. Fuck my life, the mic was off. I bet you could still hear it. This is a disaster.
Fuck that, you got me fucked up. Fuck that, you got me fucked up.
Drinking with GIROUX tonight at 7. We're gonna try to snipe something. We're gonna watch some videos. We're gonna drink. It's gonna be a more hack-versy show, okay? Fuck. The mic was off again. Fuck my life, man. I don't know how to do this. God damn it. Anyway, I played that riff. tired of this shit. Thank you all for watching. See you tonight at 7. Drinking with GIROUX. We're gonna fucking do it again. And yeah. Peace.
Heineken? Fuck that shit! Pabst Blue Ribbon!